organized by Subsidy and Company. As usual, if I'm not mistaken, this is the 5th series or thereabout. And I want to assure each and every one of us who are already on this call that the topic of today will certainly be such that is going to be very impactful. And so we want to welcome you once again and ask that you sit back and relax and get the best of this webinar. So before we launch in proper, I want to use this medium to say we'll be willing to take questions, we'll be willing to take contributions, and as such, if in the course of this presentation you have questions, you have contributions to make, you should be free to raise your hands and or to drop your question in the question box in the question and answer area, wherein your question will be read and the presenter will do justice by answering your questions. And if also you want to make one submission or the other, you're also free. You can also raise your hand and we can ask the backend to add you to the panelists and you make your questions. I think that's about it. So once again, you're all welcome to this webinar. I'm your host. My name is Olusanjo Fawole and I work for Subsidy and Company, and this is being organized by Subsidy and Company. The webinar topic for today is the impact of fuel subsidy removal on effective facility management. The impact of fuel subsidy removal on effective facility management. Before I bring in the speaker to begin to speak, and before I read her profile, then ask her to speak, I just want to throw a bit light into how this topic is very, very crucial, and it's also timely. Just some few days ago at the conference in Ilorin, sitting with some colleagues, and we're just discussing about real estate in general and the policy of the government and how it impacts the real estate industry. And I recall sitting with a couple of friends and a couple of colleagues, professional colleagues, and the issue of this subsidy was majorly what was on the front burner. And as such, I said this so that we can understand that this topic is something that is very, very crucial. And I recall that almost for the 30 minutes, 1 hour discussion that we had, just sitting and discussing, the issue of fuel subsidy was on the front burner and was a topic that was discussed extensively. So I want to assure you that you are listening to a topic that will do justice. That you will greatly be impacted. And so, like I said, the topic is the impact of fuel subsidy removal on effective facility management. So right about now, I'm going to read the profile of the speaker of today. The speaker of today is an associate partner in Subsidy and Company. Her name is Glory Nwosu. Glory Nwosu holds a BSc in Estate Management from Enugu State University of Science and Technology, Enugu. And she is an associate member of the Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, and also a registered member of the Estate Surveyor and Valuers Registration Board of Nigeria. She undertook her industrial program training with Participant Properties Limited and Fillmore Realtors in 1999. And upon graduation, she undertook a 1-year NYC scheme with Community Secondary School through Fanny in Bayelsa State as a teacher. After a youth service program, she worked with Vivian Ugweze and Company from 2001 to 2007 before joining the firm of Subsidy and Co. in 2008. She has over 16 years experience in the real estate sector. She is an associate partner, as I said earlier on, and she currently heads our Victoria Island office in Lagos. So I want to welcome to this webinar our speaker, Glory Nwosu. You are welcome.
Mr. Sanjo, thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, listeners, and happy Salah to my Muslim brothers and sisters. Today's topic, like Mr. Sanjo said earlier on, the impact of fuel subsidy removal in effective facility management. I want to share my slide so that we can go into the topic immediately. Yeah, like I said earlier on, the impact of fuel subsidy removal of effective facility management in Nigeria. We all know that facility management is an aspect of real estate that is a thankless job. There is nothing you do in facility management that is appreciated. You'll be doing wonderful, but the day you make a little mistake in facility management, it will rubbish all your good work. So today we're going to be discussing the impact of fuel subsidy removal in facility management. Like we all know that fuel subsidy has been a serious topic in Nigeria. It's been affecting us. And what do we even mean by this fuel subsidy? It's a government policy aimed at reducing cost of fuel for consumers. So Nigeria has been paying this subsidy on behalf of the citizens, and a lot of us are just glamoring that it comes with a lot of corruption, that it should be removed, so that at least Nigeria can be able to develop with whatever we have in our economy. So without struggling, the government of Bola Tinubu Ahmed came in 29th of May 2023, removed the fuel subsidy on the day of taking over from the former president. And since then, we've been having a serious issue. Since then, cost of things, with this fuel subsidy removal, the cost of fuel has actually gone up. The price of goods and services has actually gone up. So it has actually affected us in so many ways. So in this topic today, I have some pointers that I want us to be looking at, so that from there we can discuss on how we can effectively manage the facilities that we render services to. And this is not just the facilities, it actually affects us in our homes, our various homes. It affects us in our various workplaces, because if you don't make a proper plan at home, you find out that whatever you are earning might not be enough to cater for you in the house. And same goes to our workplaces. So the pointers I want us to be looking at this afternoon is, how do we ensure that we become highly effective managers? How do we become highly effective managers in this period of subsidy removal? Because some of us will be thinking, how do we go about it? How do we do it? And what are the specific measures that we need to take? So we need to discuss the measures that we can take to become a highly effective managers in this era of fuel subsidy. Measures that we can take that can boil down to cost savings in facility management, measures that we can take, so that at the end of the day, we can be able to make profit. Because for any organization or any business to run, the bottom line should be the profit making. If there is no profit in that business, it's find out that it's not a good business. So we have to discuss on how we can save costs and at the end of the day make profit through facility management. And how do we ensure that, and how do we make sure this high rates of inflation that we can be able to at least save costs for the organization? So here, for you to become an effective manager, like I used to tell people, that you must be very good in planning. You have to plan your activities, you have to be good in negotiation, and you have a good communication skill, because if you don't have a good communication skill, you will always have an issue. There must be continuous communication and planning with the stakeholders. So the challenges of the fuel subsidy removal in Nigeria as at today: number one, increase in cost of transportation and an increase in price of goods and services. Me and you will believe with me today that the prices of things that we bought last as of January, let me not even say January, prices of goods and services in March is no longer the same as at today. Chemicals that you bought in March, if you go back to markets, you will see a very big gap. Big gap. Even we that buy foodstuff, yesterday I was surprised. A bench rubber of tomato going for 9,000. What I bought 3,500 on Friday. So the gap is high. So how do we make sure that all these gaps are being covered without us feeling it badly? Workers will be clamoring for increase in salary. That is common everywhere now. It's a worker who earns 70,000 before now can use 15 to 20,000 as transport. But with the subsidy removal, you can find out that same person can now use between 30 to 40,000 as transport, and thereby going home with little or nothing to take care of the families, then there will be need for increase. There will be increase in service charge budget as a result of the high inflation rates. For every facility manager, you usually have your service charge budget every year, because for you to run effectively, there must be a budget. Without budgets, you can just be spending anyhow, and at the end of the day, you might even get into trouble. So, but once you have a prepared budget, it will be able to tell you how much you are meant to spend every year. So with these challenges that we're having now, increase in chemicals, increase of goods and services, you find out that your budget might not be able to take care of your services for the whole year. At least that will give you an idea of like how much am I going to be requesting extra? So challenges of that, we're going to be discussing it here. And then there will be delay in providing some services, because once there is no enough money to cover up, you find out that some services will be lacking behind. So that we are going to look at how do we make sure that all these gaps are being covered properly. So I'm going to give you my five ways of highly effective facility management in the midst of subsidy removal. And my number one in that 5 ways of becoming a highly effective facility manager in the midst of subsidy removal is focusing on building trust and engaging with stakeholders through communication. In this aspect, you plan along with the stakeholders. You don't plan for the stakeholders. There is need for all the stakeholders involved to be part of your discussions. There is need for you to analyze to them what you want to bring in. The services, you let them understand the services clearly, what you are to provide for them. How do we go about it? Like in this era of every one of us hearing about new tariff for power, public power, you can throw it open to them. Even with the subsidy, diesel that was deregularized last year, you understand? You can throw it open to everybody. Okay, in this facility, we run 24 hours lights. Are we going to continue with the 24 hours lights with the subsidy removal? What do we do? Okay, can we look at it from this angle? Instead of running 24 hours lights, can we do 18 or we do 20 hours? Imagine when you do 6 hours, 18 hours a day, you'll be able to save 6 hours light. And 6 hours is not just 6 hours. Times 6 hours by 7 days, times it by 4 weeks, and multiply it by 1 year, you are getting about 2016 hours. And that's quite a lot of money for that facility. So if by the time you analyze it to them, they will see reasons why they should actually go with you. In some estates where their water is being metered, you can as well advise them that instead of us running all the water usage in that metered water, can we have a shallow borehole in the estate where we can pipe the toilets, the washing of cars, the watering of the flowers, and even people in the service quarters, let them use the water from the shallow borehole. You find out that instead of you spending about $250 monthly to run the estate, you might end up spending about 100,000 and saving 150. And imagine 150 times 12. That amounts to a lot of money. So by the time you analyze all this to the stakeholders, they will see reasons why they should even go with you. They will see reasons why they should, and you have to let them know if there are some services that need to be reduced. Ordinarily, like fumigation, some properties don't carry out fumigation on a monthly basis. You can advise, instead of doing it on a monthly basis, you can do every other month, which is still okay. Some service pumps every quarter. Instead of us servicing a pump every quarter, can we do every biannual? Borehole, some service. I know there are some people that don't even know that borehole is being serviced. Some properties service their borehole every year. Some carry that out every 2 times in a year, every six months. They compress it, especially on the island. If you don't service it, before you know it, you will hear that the borehole has collapsed. So to avoid your borehole being collapsed, there's every need for you to service. So instead of you servicing it 2 times in a year, you can equally advise that borehole can be serviced once in a year, thereby saving cost, because if you don't analyze this things for them to say reasons with you, they will not understand you. So you need to give them reason why those things should be done in order to save cost for them. So it's always good to plan along. Don't take a decision for them. Plan along with the stakeholders. And then automating the workplace order, workplace order. How do we do that? Is all by going on the modern technologies, making sure that all the services that you render in the property is well automated in the system. The period when they are due for servicing, the period who that is in charge, you make sure that all these things are automated. You don't need, at this period, you don't need to have everybody on site to carry out the job. You reduce the number of technicians you have on site. You can even decide to go on pay as you service contracts with them, to reduce cost. And this and you find out that you'll be able to take care of 4 or 5 sites without having difficulties, because you have all the records that you need. It can pop up on your wristwatch, it can pop up on your system to tell you when one facility is due for servicing, when there is an error, and you know who to call. It actually removes a lot of human errors, because at times you find out that our brain cannot carry everything. But with the help of the technology, you can be able to carry all these things effectively without having any problem. So we now move on to installing modern equipment for cost saving. Wow, this part is actually very interesting, because we noticed that most of the properties that were built in early 60s and 70s, that they didn't actually take into recognition all this equipment, modern equipment that we have now. Although every year there's always a new invention and everything. So now we found out that we have a lot of equipment that can save costs for us, especially in the sector of power. Like we all know that power constitutes 70 to 85% of service charge in every facility. And if we're talking about saving costs, power should be the key aspect of it. So how do we save costs in this aspect? I think the first thing first is to advise our stakeholders on the best way to go on power installations. I think like what is happening now, if we can advise them on the common area lights, that's the security lights, the pumping machine outside, everything that is in common area, if they can put them on solar system and save that cost of powering them, metering them and powering them, it will find out that it will save the stakeholders a lot of money. Because by the time a house is supposed to be run with 500 kVA and you remove all those equipments from the house, you find out that you might end up using 250 to run the house. And imagine the cost of fueling 250 kVA generator and the cost of fueling 500 kVA generator. The gap is much. You understand? And not only that, even the cost of servicing, you will be able to save quite a lot of money from it. And even the public lights, by the time the one that is metered, you find out that you won't be paying much in your public light, you'll be paying less, because the major ones has actually been removed. Then we can even advise them on installing energy-saving bulbs. When you install energy-saving bulbs, you find out they don't really take much in our power consumption. They take little or nothing from the power consumption. And not only that, we can as well advise them in installing all these AC, cooling air conditioners. We have modern ones that are motion detectors. They can only cool when somebody is in the house. If you're not there, they automatically go off. You find out it saves a lot of cost. It's only when you are there that it will work. If you're not there, it will not work. So if we can advise them, even though the modern houses now, most of them are going into that, we can even advise the owners of the old house, if they can carry out some of these renovations and install this equipment in their house, it might be capital intensive, but at the long run, it will save them a lot of cost. I think it is even our own duty as well to advise people building now, if we can go green, because going green will save us a lot of cost. Although in Nigeria, they are still saying it's only one building that is certified to be greenhouse in Nigeria. So, but if others can try as much as possible to eliminate them, I think it will save a lot of cost. It's capital intensive at the beginning, but at the long run, it saves cost. Efficient communication accounts and account reconciliation skill. I think this is a major place that we facility managers have problem. If only we can look at it very well and understand that there is need for us to be transparent. I think the key word there is transparency. You understand? If we can be transparent in all our dealings with our stakeholders, it will give them that, it will build that trust that whatever we tell them and analyze it well, that they will do it. You know, for you to have run a good facility management, you must have a budget. And your clients should be able to know how the money is being used. They should be able to see the inflow and outflow, if possible, on monthly basis, or even worst case scenario, on quarterly basis. You know, but we advise that we'll do it more on monthly basis because it will save you a lot of stress. It will save you a lot of headache. If the money is going out, they will be able to see if I pay in 2 million as a service charge today, and you are giving me my account statement on monthly basis. And maybe by the third or the fourth month, I will not really, if I realize that my money that is remaining with me is like maybe 500 or 200, I'll start making arrangements to top up my money, you know. But if you don't give me records, you are the only one with the records, and you come back at the end of maybe June to tell me that I have to top up the money, I will argue it because I'm not seeing any record. You understand me? But you as the facility manager, you know that what you are doing is the right thing. But because they are not being carried along, because they are not saying your account statement, so nobody will believe you. So it's always good to let them know. As the prices are going up, everybody should be seeing it. Where you are getting your material from, who is providing the services, how much you've paid, how much that is remaining. Everybody should be able to do that. So I think it's even a key word because with you being transparent, I don't think there will be issues when you're asking somebody to top up their money. But if you don't do this, there will always be an argument. You know, argument, I did this, I did not do this. But once they receive their monthly statements, once they receive their account statement on monthly basis, they will be able to at least be able to understand that their money is going down, and they'll be able to pay you, top up immediately they see that the money is going down. And again, the monthly statements will help you plan properly in the next facility year. You know, so if assuming that you requested for 2 million for service charge TC, and you've been able to see the trend on how the money is going, by next year you'll be able to know whether 2 million can be able to carry that facility, or maybe instead of asking them to deposit 2 million, let me ask them to deposit 3 million, because you've been able to get an average cost of managing that facility. Same thing goes in energy, in facility management, which even in my office, we've been able to capture that, what most of our properties uses in a year. With the average of that monthly statement, we'll be able to get that. Then encouraging the use of modern technology will help reduce the fossil fuel energy costs. Like I've said earlier on, there are some modern technologies that when you install them in the house, it actually reduces the cost of diesel, reduce the energy cost in the house. I made mention of installing solar system in the house. When you have a property and you install a solar system to power the security lights, to power some of the equipment in the common area, some heavy equipment, like your pumping machine, it's actually cost a lot of money, so because I know some properties that their pumping is like a regular, is non-stop, So if we encourage them to install all these equipment in the property, you find out that it will help them save cost. It will help them save a lot of money, because it's only when we advise that this can be done. If we don't really advise, some of them might not even know what all this is all about, So in this aspect, for us to actually achieve our dreams and make sure that we'll become highly effective in this period, we need to make sure our strategic approach is just to make sure that most repairs are being carried out as at when due, not like our preventive, that that generator will be due and you'll be due into like the service providers, they said is either 2 months, after 2 months, or we should be serviced after 200 hours. At this period, I would advise everybody, instead of us going after 2 months, whether due or not due. Some people will say, yeah, the specification is after 2 months. No, I think it's better we go after 200 hours. Some estates that their light is relatively okay, in order to save costs, because by the time you pay for yearly maintenance, you find out that yearly maintenance might even carry you for another 2 years if you go by that 200 hours against the after 2 months servicing. So in this aspect, I would advise more on reactive maintenance, carrying that maintenance as at when due, when it's needed, when it's necessary. Not like because I don't want anything, but because when it's needed, it's not as if you want to wait for it to go bad before you do it. No, you just want to be sure that this thing is actually needed at this point, and there's need for us to carry it out at that point. So that is when you go for it. And in conclusion, again, I want to advise us, if we can actually separate our service charge budget from our diesel, from our power budget, because for it to be very effective, is this, if you can get your power budget properly, I don't think that the other ones will be problem. So it's always good, even if you are not giving the service charge account monthly, your diesel account should be, if possible, the usage should be on daily record, and the account should be on monthly record, so that you can be able to get the actual amount that you're supposed to be asking for your clients to deposit, so that there won't be stories that touches the heart and when you are coming to collect your service charge. I think with this, my few points, I've been able to advise that it's better for us to look at these 5 points I've mentioned here and use it to make sure that we save costs for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Glory. That was very impactful. I said earlier on when we started that this is a subject that, if you listen carefully, I had my notes written. I was just writing here. I want to say thank you very much. Whilst I do a few recap, once again, I want to ask for as many who have questions. Somebody had asked a question whether these slides are available, and I'd actually responded that yes, the slides are available. But if you have questions, please use the question and answer chat box to drop in your question. And if you want to take questions, you want to speak, I can allow a few persons to speak, to make 1 or 2 contributions and ask a question live if you want to do so. Just indicate by raising your hands. Glory did talk about, I love when you started by talking about the issue of planning, negotiation, and communication skills. And for me, the issue of communication skills, I think it's very important at this particular point in time, wherein this issue of subsidy, now you hear people, I told you earlier on when I started that I was having this conversation with a few colleagues in Ilorin, and this issue of fuel subsidy was very, very serious. And so the issue of communication with clients and people that you manage their facilities, I think is very important, because at this point in time, I must also say that people are really, any small thing can actually trigger people now because of the cost of things, you know. So, I mean, Glory did talk about the issue of communication. She talked about the issue of transportation costs on the increase, talking about how people find it difficult now, how increments in service charge is becoming so high as a result of this subsidy that we talked about. And that key thing that Glory did mention was the issue of delay response in facility management and maintenance, you know, as a result of this. And she went on to now talk about 5 nuggets. I named them as, I mean, 5, she was talking about 5 points, but I wrote them down here, the 5 nuggets, you know, which personally made a whole lot points to me. She talked about the need to focus. I'm going to ask Glory to throw a bit line into a few things, right? And I'm going to, the 5 nuggets she talked about focusing on building trust. And I think that is very key, because if you have the trust of your clients, I mean, that speaks to it. That's it, you know. And if you are going to have the trust, we must go back to the first thing we talked about, the issue of communication, that when she started with communication. She talked about focusing on building trust and engagement with stakeholders through communication, right? So, I mean, at this point of fuel subsidy and the attendant challenges that it has, we must be able to get the trust of our people. She also talked about automating the work order process, right? Okay, so Glory, let me see. I'm trying to see if we have, let me just look at this. Okay, no questions yet. I mean, let me see if we have people who have their hands raised I can see, wow, I can see Oluwadara Ashimolo raised. And I also see, okay, I see Oluwadara and Ashimolo. I also saw Charity, but before I allow them to come. So please, I want at the back end, please, those at the back end, Moji, please, can you put Oluwadara Shimolowo and Charity Boba, can you put them on the panelists? Before I allow them to speak, I want to ask Glory to weigh in on this. Glory, you talked about going green. You talked about installing modern equipment for cost saving, and you did talk about 70 to 80% of their energy, this money goes into what you spend on energy, and you talked about going green. So I want to ask, you also did mention earlier that the cost of going green may be much initially. Do you honestly think, in the light of this situation that we face in Nigeria currently, do you think that people will gladly yield to this advice, knowing fully well that it may be capital intensive in the initial stage? Do you see people yielding to this advice? Is this something that you think that will go down well with people, especially in the light of the challenges that we have currently? I want you to take that before we probably allow these people to talk.
Yeah, Mr. Sanjay, thank you for your question. Let me be very honest with you. People are already thinking out of box, you know. A lot of people are already thinking, even in our homes, you know, with the new tariff that they just came up with, that the NEPA bill is going to be 40%, there will be 40% increase. Everybody wants to install solar system in their home to save costs, irrespective of the cost. I even heard some people saying they will go borrow it, you know, to make sure that at least, if not for any other thing, let it be that it's NEPA bill that they're paying, but they won't pay NEPA bill and pay fuel bill at the same time. You understand me? Yes, it might be capital intensive, but it will, at the end, at the long run, because it will get to a stage where before a client will take a house, he wants to know the breakdown of the facilities that you have in the house. You know, he wants to know the type of the source of your power. Is it solar power? Are you on 24 hours public power? Or do you have, you know, by the time you find out by the time the tenants find out that, okay, everything you have is metered, they will not go. But by the time we explain to them that, oh, my rent is also some amount, but my common areas, power is being separated from metered energy, you understand me? They were like, oh, even if for any other thing, people are saving me costs, but I'm paying higher rents, you know, they will gladly go into it because they know that you'll be saving them. But even by the time they inspect and find out that even the light fittings there are not the ones that consume too much light, and even that you even change your cooling system, they will gladly pay the rents and move moving because they will pay higher rent and pay lesser in service charge. It might interest you to know that some service charge service charge now is almost same as the rent. You understand me? So I'd rather pay high rent and pay lesser service charge when all these other things have been taken care of. So it will actually benefit the owners of the property and as well the tenants that will move into the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gloria. Just like you rightly say, what this suggests to us basically is that everybody must now begin to think about this concept of going green, no matter how little in whatever space. Now, I will allow Oluwadara Shimolowo you are here. Please, can you unmute yourself and make your comments? And let's hear you, Oluwadara Shimolowo, before I take Charity over.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to ask for what can be done in a situation where there are few customers who are not diligent or responsive or responsible enough to check their monthly service charge statement or balance. So what can one do in such a situation?
Gloria, I'm sure you understand, you get that very well.
Yes, I did. Okay, in some properties, some tenants might prove to be, let's say, ignorant. It's left for you. Before a tenant rented a house, at least there was an agreement. And in that agreement, it was clearly stated that there will be service charge and the amounts to be paid and the services to be provided. You understand? So if we on our own are providing the services and doing the right thing by giving them monthly statement, that's why I said monthly. And it's always good in our agreement, let the service charge read deposits. Because it's not a fixed amount, it's a deposit, so that the client will understand that once this money is going down, I am topping it up. It's not just reading. It's always good as well to explain to them before they move it. Because I've had instances where some people said it's their company that is paying for them. If my company pays this money, they will not pay again. You have to let them understand that it is a deposit. It's not a fixed figure. It's either you pay a deposit shortfall or you pay a higher amount so that if the money is not finished in that year, it can be carried over the next year. So it's both just for the parties involved to have a proper understanding. I believe if there is a proper understanding, there won't be issues on who pays or who does not pay. If you know you are not going to be paying for it, then why taking the property in the first place? Because you were fully informed about the service charge and you accepted and you signed the agreement. Please, service charge amount should always be in the agreement. You understand me? And the services to be rendered should be also added in the agreement so that tomorrow, if you are having issue with a tenant, you know that you are covered. You understand? If you are taking him to court, you know you are covered because it's stated. It's not when the tenants moved in, you will now start telling him, but I will inform you. You will say, where do you have it? Is it in the agreement? It becomes a problem. So once you have it in your agreement and you issue monthly statement so that you will see what is happening, I don't see the reason why the person will not pay. So if the person is not paying, as you are ejecting him in the house, you are ejecting him because of, I wonder how somebody will pay rent and will not pay service charge. I don't think it's possible, but if that is the case, you still have the right to reject it because it's not paying service charge, and it's still because it's duly agreed and both parties signed for it. So I don't think that is the way I think we should be handled. Thank you.
Okay, let me Ashimolowo, is that fine? I mean, I totally, there's something Glory did said, you talked about, and that's very instructive for me, and I think every day we learn. With this issue of when you talked about not just even assuming that they read the things, right? There must be proper explanation so that nobody comes. Of course, it's there, the agreements are there, that it's deposit. But some people also still feign ignorance. Just like when we buy equipment in our houses, we assume that we know how to use them. We buy a TV, we buy a laptop, and we just open and we start using, assuming that we know how to use them without reading the manual. So it's also still possible that, yes, even when people have this agreement, they don't read them. So I also think what we just said now, it's instructive to me when you also did mention, because I'm thinking what Glory is saying. I'm thinking that I've already given you the document. Why don't you read it? But again, you're also now saying that we must begin to let them realize, explain to them so that nobody comes tomorrow and begin to say that, oh, I didn't read it. Even if you don't read it, we also did explain to you. So, Oluwadara, I don't know, maybe that makes sense, or you want to weigh in a little more on what Glory says, but I think it's very, very straightforward and very clear. But let's hear you out if that's fine with you. Ashimalo.
Okay, thank you very much. What struck me in our explanation is where she mentioned that she repeated it that we should make it clear to the tenants that whatever they are paying is a deposit. Yeah. And I so much appreciate that part of our explanation, because that is how it's actually meant to be. Some of them don't actually have the understanding that whatever they are paying, the lump sum they are paying initially, is just a deposit, which may not be enough in the long run.
Very true.
But I have also had cases of situations where, I agree with you that the explanations needs to be made to them from time to time. One needs to, from time to time, engage them so as to be sure that they understand the whole calculations, the whole statements, and the whole expenses. Thank you very much for the answers and the explanation.
All right, thank you, Oluwadara. That's very. Before I allow Glory Charity to weigh in on our question, I think there are questions I can see here. Let me just okay. Of course, Oluwadara still said that he's asking here. Madam Glory is saying what software are available in the market industry for calculating monthly service charge expenses and also sharing monthly statement with stakeholder. Are there any software that you're aware about, or which way will you advise that we go about this?
Mr. Oluwadara, there are a lot of them in the markets. I think by the time you go, you will see them online. There are a lot of them that will give you that, pop up the service charge when it's due, the rent when it's due, remind you when services are ready. So there are a lot of facility management softwares that can do that for you. So just look for them online, you'll see them. Thank you.
I think it's just, so that we're not promoting a particular, say, yes, because, exactly. So, you don't promote them, and it's just because, again, like she said, we see there are different software. It depends on the one that are suitable. You may find some that have these issues and other, but again, there are actually a lot of software. Okay, so that's been answered. Another person was just saying, I don't want to assume it is just the tenants or occupants who and what make he says I don't want to assume that it's just the tenant and occupant. He's saying that who make up the stakeholder. Glory, you remember that while you are making your presentation, you talked about stakeholder. I think I remember in the one of the first nuggets you talked about out of the 5, you talked about focusing on building trust and engagement with the stakeholder through communication. So this person, anonymous though, saying he doesn't want to assume that this is basically the tenant and the landlord. That in terms of stakeholders, what can we also say constitute the stakeholders? Apart from the landlord and the tenant, are there other stakeholders?
The landlord, the tenants, the vendors. Vendors are important because if there's anything that they need to explain, they're the ones that will give more details. Even the staff, your technicians, that are important. So if there's any further details in anything that you want to introduce, the owners of the services will be able to tell better than even the facility manager. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's very true for that. All that stakeholder, not just even the staff. I love the fact that you also mentioned the staff too. Everybody must be brought together to understand that this is done. Then there's this this other question. I'm still going to come back to I'm going to come back to Charity. There's also Adetola@yahoo.com. He said, thank you for the well thought out presentation. He says, I think there should be separate service level agreements for the services apart from the tenancy agreement. Service level agreement will capture the amount and details of services to be provided. Madam Glory, what do you think about it? This person's his opinion is that, I mean, yes, there could be tenancy agreement, but it's also important to have service level agreement. What's your take on this, ma'am?
It depends on how the organization wants to handle it. You can make them separately in a situation where you have a different company providing the services, the facility management, and another one providing the property management. You can have different agreements. But whereby it's the same company that provides the property management and facility management, I think it should be in one agreement. In some of the properties that we manage, we have them in one agreement. In some that we have other facility managers manage, you have just property management and just put the amount, the facility management gives them the amounts and the breakdown of the services that we render to them. So it's a two-way thing, you know, depends on who is managing it. If you are the one providing the two services together, it should be in one agreement. But if it is being provided by two different companies, it should be two different agreements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me allow Charity to, before there's another question that I'll also take. I know we are pressed for time. We're still within our time frame. We have about 7 more minutes to go, but we can still take. So Charity, can you come in weigh in on your question or your contribution?
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Sonjo Fawole. I must say, hello.
We can hear you very well, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, very clearly, yes.
All right. I will say, let me first of all appreciate Glory for a well robust presentation. My question goes to us first. How do we manage and evenly distribute the diesel accounts among tenants, whereby you have a stay-at-home wives that will want the power supply to be on 24 hours? In the light of this increment, how do we intend to manage them without also a kind of infringing on other occupants? You know, when you have some of these expatriates that their wives don't work and they are at home and they want the power supply to be on for 24 hours, how do we manage such people?
Wow. Madam Glory, this is a tough question. This is tough, and it's real. It's real because I'm also just, it's really, really real, and we need to talk about. Let's allow you weigh in into this, Madam Glory.
Okay, Charlie, thank you for your question. Is a common question anyway. Is a common. I've seen it severally. This situation, you know, the way we actually resolve most of them, I will tell you that it still boils down to communication. You know, getting all the people involved in a roundtable meeting. Okay, we have 24 hours signed in our agreement, but with the first subsidy removal or the regulation of diesel last year, how do we go about? We can't continue paying for 24 hours because the price is high and the money cannot cover it. So how do we go about it? The idea of sharing the lights now comes in. Okay, some will come up with, okay, we want us to be using 18 hours against 24 hours. Some will say 20 hours against 24 hours. So once they agree on number of hours they want to use the lights, the next thing is, when do we now put up this lights? Some of them will come up and say, okay, between 10 and 12, power should be off. Between 3 and 5, the power should be off, you know. So it's not just one person's decision. It has to, everybody has to be carried along. So they will look at it when nobody is in the house, when they don't have much thing doing, and the children must have gone to school, you know. So they will now request for at least 2 hours short power outage within that period. And then by the time the children are back in school, they've taken their beds and they want to take siesta, you know. So they will now request for another 2 to 3 hours per outage within that period. But the only thing is that maybe it's usually done during the weekdays. Weekends, most of them don't accept the breakage. Most of them request for 24 hours weekend. But weekdays, they usually do 6 hours of the 24 hours every day, but is on everybody's agreement. It's not on individual person's agreement, because then on a request, when a particular tenant is requesting for a light, when light power is supposed to be off, every other person has to be duly informed. But when it becomes regular, that person can be billed for that 2 or 3 hours period that is actually requested for that light.
All right, thank you. Charity, please, can you mute? Okay, all right. Can you mute your speaker now? Okay, so I want to thank you, Glory, for answering that question, because I was just thinking in my head, and you know what actually happens at the end of the day when you started. I mean, it also goes back to when you started this presentation. There are 3 major things that you did mention. You talked about planning, negotiation, and communication. And I can see from this answer that you just gave to the question Charity did ask, is basically about planning. You know, these are things that will always come up every now and then. I mean, don't forget, we also have some tenants that can be very tough. So you also need to negotiate with them. You also need to communicate to them. That's what it means to be. I mean, I don't envy facility managers, though, but again, it is what it is, because it requires quite a whole lot of patience. You must be patient to be able to communicate appropriately, especially when you have top people. Thank you so very much for that answer. I also have some, I mean, our time is fast spent, but I have like 2 more questions to take from here. Because I also have 1 or 2 questions. I mean, one I would probably just put to you. Nicholas Ejiofor is asking you, Madam Glory, who keeps the service charge funds paid by the tenants in a safe custody? Is it the estate surveyor or the landlord? I mean, this can be answered straightforward.
It's the facility providers that keeps the service charge with them, because they are the ones spending the money. And it's the reason why I said you give an account statement regularly, so that everybody will see how the money is being spent. It's not the landlord. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you so very much. I think that has been answered. Then there's another. Okay, so somebody is asking that, please, can we get the slide for yes, you'll get the slide. I mean, just make sure you register. If you register your email addresses, I'm sure in a day or 2 you can get the slide. I mean, by Friday you should get the slide, and also you can also get the recording. That will ensure that you get that. That is done. Then, Madam Glory, there's also one other question here. Is it legal based on the laws of our land to evict an occupier because of non-payment of service charges? Right? You know, I mean, we talked about you people can be evicted for not paying rent, but this person is asking from the basis of the law now, can we evict somebody, an occupier, because they are not paying their service charge?
Service charge is part of the rents. So if you're not paying service charge, why are you in that house? Because it was clearly stated in the agreement before you moved in that the house is serviced, and the XYZ is the service charge account amount, you know, and the services are being rendered. You cannot be using a house, living in a house where you have free lights, have water, you have everything, the compound is being cleaned, the common areas is being well lit and everything, and you are not paying for it. So I think it's legally right, because it's part of the agreement you signed, that part of the obligations that if you don't fulfill them, you'll be ejected from the property. So I don't think there's anything wrong in ejecting a tenant when service charge is not being paid, because you cannot be enjoying NEPA. Even NEPA, you can't enjoy NEPA lights, and you tell me that I should pay on your behalf. It's not done anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. I saw somebody on this call, and I must bring this person on to talk at least for 2 minutes, right? Especially in the light of these things that we said. Can the back end help me bring in Pastor Jagon? I know he's a facility manager to the call. He's one of our past chairman in Lagos branch, and I think it's good to have you to see on this call. Can I still see him here? I saw Pastor S.O. Jagon was I know he's a facility man, and I'm sure I want to, yes, Pastor Jagon, please can the back end please bring Pastor Jagon and let's tap him for just two minutes, Pastor Jagon, please, is the back end doing that? Please, I'm sure. Okay, yes. Moji, please, can you help me, please? Yes, Pastor Jagon, who is the former chairman of the Lagos branch. Okay, I'm sure you can do that now.
Okay.
Yes, you can do that.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, I've done that.
Yeah, so is the chairman of he was a past chairman of the Lagos branch. He served as the Lagos branch chairman. And I know he's somebody who is also very passionate about, I know you joined a bit late, but let's tap into you briefly. We're talking about the light of this subsidy in 2 minutes. What can you tell us in terms of how we can manage with this first subsidy as regards to facility management? Charity, Gloria talked about 5 nuggets. She has given us 5 nuggets and we have discussed extensively, but we can't have you on this platform and not just tap from your wealth of knowledge, sir.
Agafa Wale, it's a privilege. Thank you. I will not take it for granted. Thank you for this privilege. And I know I've been eager to join. I registered 3 days ago, but I was not sent any link. So I was just amazed, and I saw that you have posted the link on one of the platforms, so I quickly joined. That's why I joined late.
Hello. We can't hear you again, sir. Your line is breaking. Hello. I think we have some technical issue with Pastor Jagon from that end. But whilst we're still waiting for him to come up, Madam Glory, I was going to, maybe the last aspect, I was going to ask you to weigh in. Okay, he's already in. Yes. Pastor Jagon, you break in at so many points in time. Hello. What's happening? Sorry, these are technical issues that we cannot but have them. Pastor Jagon is no longer here. On the back end, are we trying to bring him back? Okay. Just Madam Glory, please just give it 2 more minutes.
Okay.
So
yes.
Okay. Yes.
It's on mute again. Thank you, sir.
Right.
So I'm saying that we need, as professionals, we need to also leverage on innovations that are available. Particularly now that the whole world is talking about sustainability and going green. So are there, other sources, like Gloria was answering some of the question. By the time you shut down power, do they have access to probably solar? Each of the tenants may actually have maybe solar power or have inverters that when you shut down the central one, they still have something to run themselves. I was talking to a client yesterday. In their own house, they shut down power from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They rely on solar battery and inverter, so that they only use the.
That's very good. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's nice.
Main power by available, and to see how we can save cost. And like you said, and Gloria pointed out, we need to plan ahead. Number 2, engage the people. Communication is key. No matter what you are doing at this time, if you are not communicating with people, they cannot read your mind. And if you communicate with them, they will have a buy-in. So you must always communicate and be transparent with what you are doing. Be very transparent, because now the internet has made the world to be a very small place. Whatever you are telling them, they can verify. They can find out. So you need to be open with your records, open with whatever you are bringing on the table, so that they will be able to trust your judgment and also whatever you are bringing on the table. Thank you once again, my noble colleague Pawale, for giving me this privilege. And Gloria, I know that you must have done justice to the presentation.
Thank you so very much, Pastor Jago. In fact, exactly what you said, because I remember I kept going back to what Glory said earlier. Glory talked about planning. In fact, when she started, she talked about 3 key things before she began to give us the nugget. She talked about planning, she talked about negotiation, and she talked about communication, which is what you just said. Now, you also don't mention plan. And I remember also, while Glory was giving our first nugget, she talked about transparent. Okay, no, that's when she was talking about, I think when she was talking about Yes, she was talking about, yes, number 4, you talk about efficient communication and account reconciliation skill. At that point, you did mention the word transparency, and I think I noted it down here. She was particular about being transparent, and I'm glad that, I mean, our erudite, yes, we had actually also weighing on that, and we are glad. Thank you so much for that input, and we're so much grateful. Glory, our time is fast spent. Okay, somebody is asking, okay, I want to ask, somebody is saying, and Anonymous is also saying, to add to Madam Glory's response to Madam Charity, I'm suggesting meters should be installed in each flat because some clients might not want you to retain power supply. This will help monitor the usage of power. I think that's also what she said earlier on. I mean, basically. So Pastor Jagun talked about, and I think Glory said something about, I heard you, I saw the way you were responding to that. Do you want to say something about that when he was talking about this solar stuff? You also talked about 8-hour stuff. What do you think about? I think that makes some sense to you, Glory. Do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, it really makes some sense to me, because like I said, installation of that solar system in most of our properties now, it will help in a long way, So instead of even like some people giving them lights halfway, I think it will be better, like what he said, advise them install a solar system that can carry them from 12 hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's quite a long time, and that saves a lot of money. It saves a lot of fuel and diesel, and it saves maintenance costs as well. You understand me? So I think it's a very good idea, and wish to look into it. And even this idea of power gas and all those things is something that I believe as time goes on we should look into it as well. I really agree with him what he said.
All right, thank you very much. As we begin to wrap up, because our time is already past spent, I was also just going to say, I mean, maybe what I would have asked while Pastor Jagun was speaking, I was just thinking about when he talked about solar, individual people, are we saying individuals can be allowed to have solar energy in their places, or can it be done generally to say as an alternative source of power? Can we be speaking with our stakeholders, landlord, to say, if we want to save costs, can we also look at this aspect? Can we do it holistically? I don't know if it's something that is possible. It's just my thought while Pastor Jagun was saying something, or do we allow them to do it individually? What implication will it have? Pastor Jagun, are you still there? Before Glory wraps up on that, Pastor Jagun,
Yes, sir.
do you think what's the implication of allowing them to do it individually, or are we looking at it collectively? Because the issue of going green is something that we have to begin to talk about. I mean, it is here to stay. Glory talked about that when she started in the 3rd point. So what do you think about this, sir?
Sir, it depends on the design of the building. For example, if you have a horizontal design, maybe you have cluster of houses, it's easy for individual to have their own panels. But if it's vertical, maybe you have a block of flats, it's going to be difficult because you have only one roof for everybody. So in that case, you have to jointly now have, a backup system. But for the individual, they may not rely on solar now, but they'll have inverters, so that by the time you have the central power, they have batteries in their units, in their own apartments. So those batteries will store power. Some of these batteries can run for 6 hours, for 7 hours, for 8 hours. So individually, the way some developers even build now is that they already wire each apartment to have inverter system on ground, so that you have your own battery. So if you have your own battery, when power is from the mains come, like Gloria was saying, they can agree together. They want to shut down power for 2 hours, for 4 hours. So by the time they shut down power, your own inverter has already, stored power in the battery.
Yeah.
So what you do is all the things. Power, maybe your fridge, freezer, you shut them down so that your battery will power light, power TV, power your DSTV, and you can work on your workstation, and that can run for 3-4 hours. So invariably, you have no need for power at all. from the center. So it's
Mm.
either way. So if it's horizontal development where you have individual apartment, maybe semi-detached houses or detached houses on their own house, on their own roof, they can install the panels. But if it's vertical, where you have a block of flat, it's going to be a little bit difficult because the space where you can have those panels is restricted. And in some cases, some tenants can be smart and ask to use the available space, maybe on top of the generator house or whatever. But you will have challenge. If you have a block of 10 flats, for example, and 2 already taking the space available, when the others want to make application, where do they go? So it may now at that point become case of first come, first serve. Well, you didn't ask for it, but later the others can object. So you can now say, okay, centrally, we want to have this centrally installed, and when we shut down central power, but even at that, it's going to be a little bit difficult to manage that. But the easier way for vertical is for each apartment, to have their own battery system in their own flat. Yes. So that even either you have generator or whatever, or from mains, power is stored in the battery, and when you shut down, they can now rely on the backup.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much,
sir.
Thank you. So, Glory, whilst I allow you to, in 2 minutes, I want you to wrap up your, what further advice, based on what you've spoken generally, and in the light of this discussion, for young Jews, you don't just, this is on a big level, but for the young ones who are also listening, the individuals who are also in their own houses, not just on what advice will advise to us, so in such a way that we can, in the light of this subsidy, we cannot work from home. Our work is field-based. So what will you tell us and every other person on this call? As a last word before I wrap up and bring it to close.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sandra. What I will tell each and every one of us is that as the economy is shifting and with the increased rate of inflation, is affecting everyone, even at home. People are now planning, unlike people in my area, some people will use their generator till daybreak. Now, once it's 12 o'clock, all generators are off. Everybody opens their window. People are, like you said, people are now trying to see how they can install a inverter, how they can install solar system, save costs, plan. So I think is a period everybody has to sit up. Let's not just leave it for facility managers alone. We are doing our own part, we will do our own part, but at the same time, we need to do it jointly with everyone so that we can be able to save costs. If you are a stakeholder and you see what will benefit you in your property, you can as well call the facility managers to order and say, oh, can we introduce this? Can we do this? I traveled, I saw this, and I feel that we can try it in this property and it will work. It's a suggestion. You can bring it in and let's see how it can be implemented in that property. So I will advise everyone, let's all start going green, even if it's gradually. It will help us at the end of the day. It will get to a state that nobody will be talking about this power, even generator in this country. If we start it now, it will get to a state that generator won't be in use again. You understand me? And even the public power system, people will look for a way of generating their own power. If I install a solar system that will give me light 24 hours, I will yank off everything. You understand? So it's a gradual process, but I know we'll get there. So let's start encouraging it from now. It will save us costs and everybody will enjoy it at the long run. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Madam Glory. You know what I just thought while you were making this presentation? I just said to myself, I said, Madam Glory, this your slide, we need to turn it into an article. That's on a lighter note. And I'm serious about it because I saw something that interests me seriously on this. And we can, other than doing this webinar, our people are the first beneficiaries, these people who are on this call. And it's a great one. So I think the next step for us is to find you up putting this in an article. And I'm sure that this will have a wider circulation. I can authoritatively tell you this is something we should work on because I'm really, really impressed with with the way. And I want to thank everybody who came on the call, the panelists who later joined us, Charity, Ashimolowo, and our own erudite Pastor Jagun, who is the facility manager to the call, widely traveled, and our own speaker, Madam Glory. We call her Madam G for Glory, you know, Madam G. I mean, don't forgive me, but I'm doing this. I'm the one. Yes, you know, we call her G, but you know, G for Glory. You know, it's Madam G. And you have done justice to this, and I most sincerely appreciate you. That we're really, really blessed. We're really, really impacted. So I want to urge everyone, the slide, just drop your email. A few persons have dropped their email. The recordings will be sent to us. The slide will be sent to us. You can use them. You can read them. You can reach out to us. You can reach out to Madam Glory at any point in time. We can collaborate. Collaboration, like they say, is the name of the game. It's not competition. Let's collaborate together. Let's work together to ensure that we make this our profession a better space. And I believe that we certainly will do so with God on our side. By the grace of God, by July, this is June, by July, another webinar will be coming in. Just stay close to all the information channels. We'll communicate with you. We'll be coming with another topical issues, which will impact us greatly. This is coming from Obosele & Co. And I'm your host, Olusanjo Faoli, and I'll see you some other time. Barika de Salah to you all, and I wish you enjoy your holiday and enjoy your holiday. Thank you and God bless. So on this note, we'll bring this webinar to a close. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.